Hello everyone, and welcome to my Week 8 Power Ranking video for the UBA Season 2. Same as usual, I guess we'll just get right into the rankings. At number 11, I have Kudo, who still has yet to get a win besides anyone except for D. Winchill that one time. He actually should have won this week, and I'll get to that later. But he really should have won his game this week, which is at least signs of improvement, but Enzo, who is the residential number 10 spot right above him, has been replaced, and his replacement showed much more prowess in my eyes than Kudo did in his battling. So he wasn't gonna overtake him there, and even then Enzo probably still edged Kudo. We'll move on to there anyways. Yeah, number 10 I have PKM Adam. I'm not sure if that's supposed to be just super abbreviated Pokemon Adam or PKM Adam. I'm not sure how to say that, but I'm assuming it's at least Adam at the end. I guess Pokemon Adam, I'll just call him for now. I'm going to assume that's how you're supposed to say it. I took over for Enzo this week and prepped for and played PETA in like 15 minutes. He did a solid job of pivoting around PETA early game and wearing down his Goodra and taking it out, which a lot of teams have struggled with this season, including me. But in the end, he just didn't have what it took to break down PETA's team. He did a really good job of pivoting into PETA's team and dealing with his threats, but he wasn't able to really capitalize on any of his pivots. He was able to get things in and stop PETA's threats, but he really wasn't able to threaten PETA's team heavily, and because of that he ended up just being unable to hold off PETA forever. But it wasn't a bad showing by him by any means, especially given that the prep was like 15 minutes. Played solid, so I have at number 10. Number 9 I have Flair, who got smacked up by Reggie this week. I don't know why he keeps running Modest Pidgeot. Like, you already have a team that is not fast enough to justify how offensive it is, and then you're refusing to bring Scarfers, and then your fastest guy you're refusing to even put speed investment on. So things like Ninetales Alola, of all things, are outrunning your entire hyper offensive team, and you're unable to revenge them. So yeah, I don't understand why the Pidgeot came on Mega, especially because it gave him nothing to outrun the Torn, which also gave him a major issue. Yeah, so no scarfing, no speed control, so he's just putting himself in a scenario where he has to switch into things that are faster than him or die, and he's not bringing the bulk to switch into him, he's not bringing the speed to outrun him, so he's choosing third option, which is die. He did make an okay play of scarfing or bluffing the Scarf Ironhead on Garchomp against Ninetales Alola, but then immediately after clicking Ironhead against the Ninetales Alola into Gligar, when a second Ironhead killed, he clicked Dragonclaw and ended the illusion of Scarf, so he couldn't proceed to bluff it in the future, which is really his only chance of not getting swept by Ninetales Alola, and that's not a good play, given that you want to continuously bluff the Scarf, so that you can at least threaten out the thing that's going to kill your entire team. But it made even less sense because the secondary Ironhead killed, so I don't know why you needed to switch moves. Like, it wasn't even like you needed to switch moves to get the kill and maintain the bluff. You didn't even have to switch out to maintain the bluff. You just needed to click it again. So either he didn't understand that he was making a bluff play there and kind of just tried to go along with it afterwards, or when asked about it, or I don't even know what the other option is. Just had a stroke, I guess. But yeah, that didn't make sense, and it really threw away any chance of him winning that endgame. So moving on to number 8, I have Jolty, who got his game done early this week and has had quite an unfortunate past 2 weeks. After getting a fortunate week previous against Hazy, the Metagross got 3 consecutive attack raises on Meteor Mashes, which really just blew a hole through Jolty's team that he really couldn't recover from. And it forced him to sack his Primarina. And then a critical hit on a Giga Drain against a Zeraora really sealed any chance for him to win. I don't think Jolty was going to win this game, even without those hacks. It just seemed like Hazy was ready for what Jolty was going to do, which was pretty much the same thing he always does. And he had a team to stop that, but I don't think Jolty deserved to get 6-0'd that game. That was just the hacks that did that. Without the hacks, I think Zygarde maybe had a chance to take it home, but probably not. But it had a chance. But yeah, unfortunate for Jolty that it went that way. And then against Reggie, wasn't so much luck against Reggie. I think Reggie also won this game, especially because he didn't bring Houndoom, so Jolty really had very few ways to deal with Ferrothorn other than the Inferno Overdrive, which Reggie scouted for and had him blow on the Gligar. So he really didn't have much to deal with the Ferrothorn, and the Ferrothorn inevitably just walled out and killed his entire team. I think Reggie could have probably even done it more efficiently had he not let it take that Fire Punch before, which he knew he had because he'd used Inferno Overdrive. I think Reggie just wasn't paying full attention. He made some good plays in the game versus Reggie, but it just wasn't enough because he didn't bring the power to break Ferrothorn or really anything on Jolty's defensive core, although he did wear down the Gligar over time. The crit on the Zygarde really sucked for him. I don't know what set he was, and inevitably it didn't matter, but yeah, the crit on Zygarde really sucked for Jolty. I don't think he was winning this game even without the crit, but it still definitely sucked for him. And I think he does have an outside shot of playoffs at this point. It's very unlikely, but I think he can. But yeah, he has the worst record out of all of the traditional top 8 we've had, so he's at the bottom. And he's had 2 consecutive losses, and his most recent win probably didn't deserve to happen, so I have him at number 8. Number 7, I have Jeff, who picked up a good win this week against Class EL. Much like Jolty, he probably didn't deserve it, but we'll get to Class EL later. He did make some good plays, though. He got up rocks very early and was able to really pressure Class EL's team. And he really played a solid game until he left the Venusaur in, which was his win condition, his way of winning the game against Noivern, and let it fire off a free Hurricane on him and click Synthesis. And the Hurricane missed, but it was an absolutely ridiculous play. Where he really just risked losing the entire game right there for no reason. He, fortunately for him, got lucky and got bailed out by Class EL missing Hurricanes, but this was Class EL's game if RNGesus really didn't just bend him over. But Jeff did play the game well and did inevitably get the win. But yeah, a few really sketch plays. Primarily that play of of going into or leaving Venusaur in. Although at that point, I really don't feel he had very many outs. He probably had to sack to bring in Jolteon, and then probably Volt Switch, or maybe make the double again and then play the stack game. But yeah, it was just not a very good situation for Jeff. He would have had to rely on Hurricanes or playing the sack game with Jolteon. He did come out on top. I don't think he necessarily deserved to, but it's just the way it goes. So he does have a shot at playoffs at this point. He's going to need some help, and if he's able to win out, I think he should make it for sure. But if he's unable to, he's going to need some help from the next group. But this next group, really number 7 through 3. Yeah, so the 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, 4 teams. These 4 teams are going to be all vying for, I believe, 2 spots. No, that doesn't sound right. What is it? 6 spots. I don't even know anymore. I'll point it out later, but it's a very close playoff race. Jeff is definitely in it right now, but he definitely is in the worst looking shape to make it, but he definitely has a shot, especially if he's able to win these upcoming critical games. Number 6, I have Class CL, who's had an even more unfortunate past 2 weeks than Jolty has. Really just being betrayed by his Noivern and his Tapu Bulu. His Noivern missed 3 consecutive Hurricanes against Jeff, all of which claimed a kill. So that really just doomed him to lose. He played the game pretty well. I think prep-wise, he definitely needed to bring Jirachi to this matchup. But since there was no Jirachi, it really allowed the Mega Venusaur on Jeff's side, or the regular Venusaur on Jeff's side, to get out of hand. And the fact that he let his own Mega Venusaur get weakened and then not have a chance to recover meant that it couldn't even beat Jeff's Venusaur and offer a switch in into it. He also threw out his Entei, which he let sleep, which isn't a terrible play, but you need to keep that around as sleep fodder, otherwise Venusaurs can threaten to continuously sleep more things. So yeah, I think had he brought the Jirachi, I think he definitely could have won this game even with the hacks. It was very unfortunate the hacks occurred, but Class CL did make the play where he clicked Hurricane into into Togekiss, and Togekiss dodged, which, with going into it after rocks like in that scenario by Jeff, it was a good play, not necessarily, but he made the play. And so Togekiss was down to 50 after rocks. He Hurricaned again, which is a fine play because it killed at that point, and misses again, which was still extremely unfortunate for him, as the Togekiss soft-boiled, with Jeff, I guess, just playing off the Hurricane miss, which, to be fair, I don't know if he had very many other plays. I think he definitely should have sacked something besides the Togekiss first, though. But then, once it soft-boiled back up to 100 from 50, Class CL stayed in and clicked another Hurricane, and that was the choke that threw the game out, because although that Hurricane finally hit, it didn't kill. Noivern got Thunder Waved, and Noivern went from a situation where it won the game to being paralyzed and unable to outrun his Jeff's, really anything on Jeff's team. So yeah, letting Noivern get paralyzed really put him in a situation where he couldn't win the game. So he definitely got very unlucky, but he still should have been able to play through the luck, much like I talked about in the week before. He definitely got unlucky against Jolty as well, but he definitely could have won through the luck had he just not thrown away his win conditions. So I think he plays games really well and then just makes one real choke play where he throws away his win condition late game. So if he's able to wrap that up, he can definitely definitely make a good playoff run, especially if he stops getting so unlucky. So him losing this game to even more hacks puts him in a really bad situation. Had he not been hacked these past 2 weeks, he probably would be 6-2, up with the top guys. So that's really unfortunate for him. But also, both games you could say he probably won the game had he not choked as well. So a bit of a give and take there, but very unfortunate for him. But I do have him at the top of the 4-4 teams, or teams with 4 wins, and probably pretty close in skill to the next group. But the next 3 also go together very closely. thinking back on it, I think my math was absolutely fucking retarded. I was trying to count how many teams are in position 3 to 7 and came up with 4 like that many times. I'm special. But next up I have D. Winchell, who lost to me this week with some shenanigans of him exposing his own team on the ladder. So don't do that, or if you're gonna, I don't think bring your team to the ladder is a really good idea in general. You should probably find someone to mock if you really want to use your team, or like at the very least mock yourself so you can kind of like get a feel for the battle. But like bring it to the ladder, or at the very minimum at least do it on an alt so that people can't find it. But he did choose to use his team on ladder and then was found, so I put him at a disadvantage, although I feel I still probably won this game even without seeing that, because his team was essentially what I had prepped for anyways, and I didn't even know for sure after seeing the team whether that was what he was bringing or not, and evidently he did change a lot of the stuff. And really I didn't even change my team after seeing it either. But he did play the game fairly well. He did make a few very poor plays where he let his Deblade take too much damage early on. I think Deblade was a critical element for him to keep around long game, and he chose to kind of sacrifice it early on to blow holes in my team, which is fair enough. But I was able to limit the damage to the point where I was comfortable making the trade of Landorus Incarnate for the Deblade, because the Deblade was a critical element stopping Breloom and Archeops from winning the game. And after it went down, Breloom did in fact win the game and got all 6 kills. Also, probably leaving the Embor in on Lantern was not a great play either. If you put him into my Mach Punch range, and really the rest was fairly obvious because I did need my Lantern at high health that game. So it was really just a play where it gave him nothing. I think he probably could have played the game with a bit more aggression, and that could have given him a much better chance to stay in the game. But it definitely wasn't a poorly played game. I'm kind of nitpicking. I consider D. Winchell probably one of the most improved coaches, and he's definitely in a decent spot to make playoffs. But these last few battles, just like everyone else, are going to be extremely critical. But if he's able to win his good share of them, then he's definitely someone to look out for making them. Number 4, I have PETA, who played Pokemon Adam. Yeah, not too much to say. Good prep and good play. I probably would have liked to see some recovery on the Goodra. I think hydration was probably better this matchup. I get that he probably had Sap Sipper to stop the Serp, but like if you watch the battle, like, if he had like rest hydration, did I call hydration saturation? I'm retarded if I did. But if he had rest hydration or even regular hydration to prevent toxic, his Goodra would have done significantly more work than it actually did. But I really liked his Coco set in this game. It was really cool and able to really just punch through anything that Pokemon Adam put in front of it, and the Grass Knot prediction was also pretty nice. I consider PETA probably the strongest battler out of this group of like 5 and 3 and 4 and 4 teams. Just in terms of like play, he just makes good plays all the time, I think, or like just the most sound player who, like, I can understand reasoning behind most of his plays, where lots of the other coaches tend to make very interesting plays. I think very questionable. PETA is probably the most sound coach and just best overall in terms of battling skill, at least, player there. Of course, there's other factors as like your team building, things like that. But in terms of just raw battling skill, I think PETA is probably in charge for this group. Next up, I have Hazy Basilisk, who's moving up 3 spots after 6-0ing Jolty. So like I said before, I don't think he necessarily deserved a 6-0 Jolty, but he definitely, I think, deserved to win. He didn't make any serious misplays, in my opinion, from watching. He seemed a bit under-prepped for Fortress, but a handy HP Ice crit from Rose Raid, and then a few attack raises from Metagross, and then Fortress was no longer an issue for him. But I think had Fortress been carrying Spikes this week, I think he was in for a world of trouble, because I don't think he brought Defog. I guess he got lucky and Jolty didn't, but played pretty solid and got a 6-0. And really, had he not had the misclick last week, which is not great, but I think he clearly won the game without the misclick, he would be 6-2 up at the very top at this point, and he has a lot of really important high-profile wins, especially against PETA and Tepig. So I think Casey's also in a very good shot to make playoffs, and he's been playing fairly well and prepping very well. I think he probably has one of the weakest teams out of all of the coaches in this giant section. So it's like 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, about 5 teams vying for 3 spots. So I guess two of these teams will not make it between 3 and 7. So it's anyone's guess who it will be at this point, but it's going to be an interesting race and a fun one to watch. Maybe even the top 3 at this point might not make it, but I doubt it. I think it's more of a 5-horse race at this point. We'll see. But yeah, I guess that's it on him. Next up, I have Tepig, who's actually falling down 1 spot from his previous spot, just because he really did not prep very well for Kudo at all. And Kudo has been the solid number 11 pretty much throughout the season, and Tepig should have lost this game. Tepig allowed his answers to pretty much everything to get weakened throughout the game, and then didn't, as far as I could see, didn't even bring Scarfers to outrun the Zard late game. And it got to the point where I think Kudo had the game 100% wrapped up if he made the correct series of plays. Now, evidently, Kudo did not make the right series of plays and threw the game out, but I think Tepig should have lost this game, and really just needed to prep and play better for it. I do think at the end, when Uxie was in against Lop, it was a choke to click Thunder Wave instead of Psychic, because it did end up giving Lopunny the substitute. I get the rationale behind Thunder Wave, but substitute was definitely a possibility on Tepig's team, especially when you're known for running Thunder Wave that much. I think it might have been Limber substitute. I think that'd be a really cool set, and I think that's probably what Tepig had to set up substitutes on T-Waves. But I think just not clicking Psychic was a choke there, but I think if you just click Psychic, then went into Clef Key, then T-Waved the Lop as it subbed, then defogged the rocks, then let Clef Key die to the paralyzed Lop, then brought in Float Soul to break the sub, then brought in Zard thereafter and Dragon Danced. I do believe he won the game after getting a return. I do believe he won the game 100%, especially if he got the luck he did on Perez against the Lop thereafter. Now, I'm assuming this exists in a vacuum and Tepig doesn't switch out of Lopunny. In that case, if he was planning on switching out of Lopunny in that series of plays, then it gets a bit more murky. But I do think that that the Zard was going to probably end up winning if the Lop Actually, he had a stack of. I don't even. But he probably died to Earthquake. It's murky, and I'm not exactly sure how it would have went down, but I do think that Kudo should have won the game had he played it right, and that this game was far too messy and close for comfort for Tepig to be having against the number 11 ranked team. So because of that, I'm moving Reggie into number 1 spot finally. He has 9 differential points over Tepig, which in itself is pretty big, with and 2 games over him. Now, granted, he did get his game done early, but Reggie looked good in his game versus Jolty. I don't agree with how he played his Gligar. I think it was too important to him to be leaving it in on Gastrodons and risking burns and the such. Like, I understand he didn't want Zeraora to come in, but if you're risking burns on your Zeraora answer, it's not even going to be a Zeraora answer at that point. So, yeah, I didn't really agree with that, especially roosting against a Gastrodon when you're slower. I think he definitely could have brought U-turn if he was this afraid of this situation in game, and that would have really made it impossible for Jolty to double on him, and that would have made it much easier for him to manage the Zeraora doubles. But apart from that, I felt he played the game fairly well. It got kind of nasty towards the end with PP stalling, but he was able to do what it took to pull it out. His game versus Flare was also just pretty similar. Speed abuse versus Flare. Pretty standard win. So it's just his lack of losses. He only has really 1 legitimate loss, and that's 2 Tepig, to be fair. But other than that, it's like 7-1 and then 1 to Hex. It's just a good record, while Tepig has been dropping games to teams he really shouldn't have, and nearly dropping 1 to Kudo this week. So I'm moving him down to the number 2 spot, just because Reggie's been more consistent in not dropping games, or in this case, nearly dropping games. So I have him moving up to the number 1 spot finally. So yeah, that's my rankings for week 8, and I'll see you next week.